So what's up, FutureDDS family? I hope you all are enjoying your summer vacation. Today we have another special video for you all. If you all remember last year around the same time, we actually interviewed one of our classmates named Jason. Unfortunately, Jason had to repeat his first year of dental school. So we thought, why not a year later, bring Jason back in and interview him just about his process of redoing the year, how he coped with that, with all the social pressures and whatnot, and basically looking for any lessons that he learned along the way. So hope you all enjoy the video, and I'll talk to y'all soon. So Jason, thank you once again for sitting with us. It's always a pleasure to have you here on our channel, and for you to sit down and be authentic and be extremely raw with the information that you're about to provide to us, our subscribers, as well as us at FutureDDS. We really do appreciate it. So thank you once again.
You're welcome.
Thank you. So for everybody who didn't see the first video, can you kind of give a quick recap on your situation as far as why you had to repeat your first year?
Yeah, so during the first year, so I'll start in the first semester, things were going pretty good because August is usually pretty simple, but then once September began and you're doing you're doing anatomy, biochem, nutrition, everything like that, one of the things I started seeing was, I failed a couple exams here and there, but I think sometimes as you're first starting out, you kind of don't know exactly how to study, so you kind of have to figure it out. And I think the next thing is you are studying a lot, but then you're not seeing the result of what you're putting in. So then in the first semester, I felt like I wanted to just give up and I want to go home, I'm done with dental school. And then in the first semester I failed one class, which was biochem. But also with all of that, I think I also had some family issues, and I'm an international student, so I'm also thinking about, how am I paying for school? So I think there are a lot of also external factors that go into play besides just not being able to answer a question on the exam. And that matriculated as well through the spring semester, still having to deal with a little bit of anxiety, still working hard. Yes, changing up strategies and what's not and getting a good foot, but, still dealing with family issues. So, and then failing another class in neuro. But the highlight of neuro was that even though I failed the class, there was progression through the class. And I know I said in the last video that I think that failure was actually my most proudest moment, because it's not necessarily for me about the grade, but it's about the character that is built in the process. And I think in the accumulation of it all, I'm most proud of the person I've become through the process and what I can do through the process to make sure that I'm a resource for other people. Everybody's situation is different on why they have to go before the student promotions committee. Maybe it may be operative, maybe it be, classes, but, there are always reasons to why. I don't think you just get into dental school and fail. Right. There's always an external factor or internal factor about anxiety, a family issue. There are just many things that happen because life still happens while you're going through school. And, if you're just not able to handle it well, or you're still adjusting, it can definitely have an impact on the overall. So then with me, that was my case, and then I had to repeat the year. But yeah. Okay,
so of course, I'm sure when you found out that you would have to repeat, you were upset, shocked, whatever it may be. But I wanted to ask you about your emotions actually going into the new year. How did you feel at that point? Were you ready by that point, or were you still kind of upset that you would have to go through everything again?
So even before that, even before I finished my year, I knew I was repeating. So I think it was in GI, we had 2 exams, and after my first exam, I had my hearing. So I already knew, so I'm still hanging with everybody, and I knew that on the inside already. And slowly but surely I started telling my classmates and what's not, I won't be continuing and what's not. And then I took the summer to kind of get prepared mentally. And how I did that was just thinking about how reflecting. I think there's a process of, I don't, and then even before that, I don't even think I was like devastated, because I saw it as an opportunity for one to be a better student and as well to be a resource for other students. So one of the things I did was I created an Excel sheet with all my grades from the first year, and I copied it and made another side just so it would be blank, so that coming through the year again, I'm able to track my progress. I can see literally, okay, which exams I didn't do so hot in. So like in anatomy, it was like the first exam, because usually like in anatomy, you don't know what's going on. Right. So, like that one, I knew, okay, this is when I'll have to put a little bit more effort in or find a new strategy. So I think that summertime was crucial for me in the preparation for doing it. So yeah, came to orientation, I was already quite involved in the school, so, I wasn't really devastated, and I decided I was gonna be on the panel, the student life panel for orientation, so I can share my story. So as I said, students, if life happens or when anxiety happens, they can reach out to me, because I think, a lot of people don't talk about the ugly in school. A lot of people wouldn't say, oh, I'm nervous about this, or I'm having mental breakdowns. They just, do it in silence. And, I think it's just good to know, okay, there's somebody who's in here with me who has experienced this and is willing to, to talk to me about it. You can always go to faculty and go to the counselor, but to know that there's a student who actually did it is always helpful. So, I did that. I was the dental anatomy liaison for my class. So that also put me in a leadership setting. And also I think because that's the first big class that we have, I use that to also, be a resource, but also help ease my classmates, because you don't know what's gonna happen. So I just gave my tips and bits about everything, answered whatever questions needed to happen, and I had a good time. So I think it's just it's a mind, an attitude that you want to have going through. And I was like, okay, this is reality. It's not, something that I can change. Am I going to make the most out of it? And I think throughout the entire process, that's what I did. Did it with my grades to make sure that I changed my study style, tracked my progress, got involved in leadership. I just really took advantage of the year, because I think, a lot of people will look at it like, oh my gosh, this is a setback or it's a detour, but really and truly it's an opportunity to be better. I was very grateful to be able to change my F's to C's to B's to A's. Now I can really see progress in what I've done. So I don't see why I would complain. Right. Yes, money, or yes, time, but the process of having to know that you can do better, because you know that you can. And I this year I had less stress in terms of family and everything like that. So I think to actually do better was a great opportunity.
And so you had mentioned your study patterns, they changed. And so I wanted to ask you, what were you doing the first year, as far as, were you in a room with a bunch of people or whatever it may be, and what did you change this year in order to be successful in this?
So let's say for dental anatomy, I think, it was already being somewhat familiar with the information, but I think being the liaison also helped, because I was studying my information and people will ask questions. Not every question needed to go to the professor because it was right in the slides. Right. So I was just, because I knew the information, I was able to respond. So then that was more repetition that I can do. Also, I worked with my classmates. Sometimes I would tutor or help out and explain certain things because I understood it a little bit. So I think just having repetition was good. let's say for anatomy, definitely struggled in anatomy the first time, but second time, one of the study tips I had received, I printed out my slides. I print out the review, 9 slides or 6 slides per page. I'll write my notes, I listen, do the lecture capture, but I knew those review slides cold. And then I watched all the dissection videos. Watched it when I was home, watched it on the train. I listened to it on the train. So there was just a lot of repetition in the process of, I commute 30 minutes every day. So put it on 2 speed and I'm listening to the lecture all the way down to school. So when it came time for the exam, I'm not spending 45 seconds trying to answer the question. And then I went to all the free reviews. I got money to be spending for all these TAs, so went to all the free reviews. So seeing it done, hearing it from different people, that's kind of how you tackle that exam. And I did quite well in that course. So I think it's, talking to people, that's even something I did, talk to other people who were successful in certain classes. Okay, how did you do this? And then what didn't work the first time, or what worked but I know I can do better on, do that as well. So it's a combination of throwing away some things, adding some things, or sticking with some things and enhancing that process. But like I said, when you also don't have a lot of external factors being, clouding your mind, if you're not getting enough sleep, or if you're stressed about family, money, food, whatever, you can't really put 100 into the process of studying and then also retaining that information. So I think that was also another big factor in the success of the year.
And so I think naturally as humans, and as a lot of us are young, of course we have some older students, but we feel these social pressures, and I wanted to ask you how you dealt with that. I'm not sure if you felt, embarrassed or whatever it may be, but I think a lot of people would have felt that emotion.
Yeah.
And so I kind of wanted to see your point of view on that aspect of just like the social pressure when it comes to
So one of the things I did, I think when I knew I was going to repeat the year, I spoke to, I had observed people who repeated the year before. People really didn't reintegrate with the class, somewhat isolated. Definitely they felt embarrassed about having to repeat. So I kind of got a sense of how people dealt with it. But I heard of 2 students, one who was still here, and when I told them I was repeating, they were just like, okay, great, like you got this, like that was the attitude change that they had because they repeated. And I was like, and I made the decision, that's the attitude I wanted to have. And I heard of another student, or I've heard of 2 other students who, one, they repeated the year, went through school, did great. Another student had to leave school, go do a master's and come back, did phenomenal. So I think it was the question I had to ask myself internally, which one are you gonna do? Are you going to, and then, like I said, that's another thing that you're going to put on the plate, to feel embarrassed to, like, this is my journey. This is my story. This is the path that I have to take. One, I've always had to try to remind myself not to compare myself to anybody. Understanding the fact that we've all, and I think one of the things I always express to my classmates is, we can't forget our past and our failures that we've had before getting to this institution. Some of us had to take the DAT more than once. Some of us applied to dental school more than once. So to forget that we've had obstacles and still persevered, still retook, still restudied to get here, I think it's not fair to ourselves to beat ourselves up and to feel all this shame when we get here and maybe have to repeat, to keep going. So personally, I didn't feel that. I was ready to come back. Like I said, I spoke my truth. I did the interview. I was on the panel. people talk, people will always talk.
Always.
That's, that's their right. But I already had the attitude that, this wasn't going to negatively define who I am. And I'm going to do my best. I'm going to help where I can help because that's what I love to do. And I'm going to do my best. So social pressures and feeling embarrassed, no. Yes, there were some times like, very few. I was just like, dang, I really wish I maybe didn't have to do this again. But as I saw my progress and I knew that, oh, I could change this B to a B plus, or I can change this B to an A, or this C to an A, or this F to a B. That's fuel to keep you going. So I think when you are able to see the opportunity, when you can see the light, when you can see the opportunity to, I can make progress. I don't think there's anything that should fear shouldn't hold you back. Anxiety shouldn't get you. People definitely shouldn't. People shouldn't, that shouldn't stop you from doing, because you've got your own agenda to do what you have to do, because this is your journey. This is what I've come to do, come to be a dentist. And it's my name that's going to be on the diploma,
right.
Not Bobby Brown,
right.
Not Susie, nobody. So it's kind of like, am I going to let these external things affect my mind, and then thinking about, oh wow, people are going to see me in new scrubs and put my blue scrubs on, wear it with pride. Yeah, it's a little different, and you're seeing your classmates, move on, but you still have support. Right. I feel like I have more support now than I did before. I'm seeing people in clinic, when I'm assisting, or so I can ask the question, and everybody was supportive. So I think a level of respect came from doing what I did. Right. And I think some people appreciated what I did, or they were surprised and happy that I was open about it. So I think that allowed people to be even more receptive about it and not pity me. Because I think that's also another thing people are scared of, pity. Because a lot of us don't know how to respond well when people say, oh, I failed, or I have to repeat, or oh, I lost someone, or oh, this. There's always that pity factor that we want to avoid, so therefore we don't say anything. Right. So I think also having that mindset of trying to really be positive throughout the entire situation, you can avoid a lot of things.
Right. And I think that because you got in front of it, and me just talking to you, you were so, like you said, positive about the situation. Yeah. The pity was never there, because I knew from your positivity alone, you were going to be okay. Right. So I think that, if anybody is having to go through this situation again, definitely just get in front of it, because you're the first one that I've seen handle it in that manner. Granted, I know who you're talking about, who was also very positive, but, on a eye level, because that person was older than us. Right. So from everybody that I saw, you were the most positive about it. And literally, it doesn't even, if people are worried about social pressure, people don't even think about it like that,
I think after a time, you don't have time to think about who's repeating and who's doing what, because we've got our own stuff to do. We all got to pass gross. We all got to pass, these classes. Right. You don't have time, and you can't focus on that stuff because there's work to be done. Exactly. So I think after the first couple of days and what's not, you need to, and I know it's hard, it is hard, and people deal with it differently, and then I guess you think about your parents and your family and stuff like that. But I think it's remembering, this is who I am. This is the journey God has set out for me. Because what I also think is that, God already knew this was all going to happen. Right. God already knew. And it's a struggle to deal with it, obviously, humanly. But when you're able to think about it holistically, spiritually, however you deem it to be, you're able to accept it and know that, as you said, it is going to be okay. Because that's just what's going to happen. We're all going to face trials. If it's not going to be didactically, it's gonna be clinically.
Right.
You know, there is gonna be a struggle. Like dental school or any professional school, none of it is easy. I tell, you know, it's not always rainbows and sunshines. You know, there are times you are gonna cry, or you're gonna think you want to drop out, or you're gonna think, I can't do this. You go to sleep, you wake up the next day, you refocus your mind, and you handle business.
Just keep going.
That's just what we've been, and that's the thing. We can't forget the past, because that's what we've always been doing. So I think, you know, maybe there's a pressure of, I guess, being in a more competitive and professional environment where it becomes a little harder. But being that this is something that we've always done, if we've done sports, if we've played instruments, if we have, you know, prepared for dental school, had a career change, throughout our entire lives, we have always persevered. We have always, something bad has happened, we got up and we kept going. A good grade didn't happen, you cry, you let it go, and you study again. And there's always victory. You know, there's always victory, but it's always the mindset, though, of how am I gonna handle this bad outcome?
And so I was gonna ask you, like, what were some of the lessons that you learned? But I mean, you've been running those off the entire interview. So I kind of want to switch that question and ask you, what have you learned about yourself in this process?
Ooh.
Yeah,
I mean, I think, you know, I think one of the biggest things I've been able to do and be happy about is, in my hurt, I can still be a blessing. And I honestly reflect on that a lot, because there are days when, you know, just personally I might be tired, or I might, you know, still be going through a financial situation, or still having to think about family and what's not, still having to worry about, you know, a lot of external things. I get a phone call and, Jason, pray for me, like this is going on, or how do I get through this, or I'm feeling nervous about this. And to be able to not think about myself in that moment and still be a caring person and still give wisdom and still help someone out, I think for me I learned that mostly about myself, that I can still push through despite what I'm going through, to help. That's one. Two, that I can do this. You know, compared to my mindset in the beginning when I felt like I wanted to drop out of school, to being able to go through this year and see that I can go from a C- to an A-, and see what it takes to be exhausted to get what needs to be gotten. I think that also shows our own strength in what we're able to do, because sometimes in the moment we don't feel it. Like, you think that, you know, dang, I can't study anymore, I can't, but what is it that's fueling us? You know, like, I think anatomy was one class I was just like, with it being a 4-credit class, I was just like, it's A or no way. You know, like, that's just what I thought, and I just had to do it. So being able to look at my Excel sheet after every exam and see progress, that just showed me continually I am in the right place. I belong here. You know, I can do this. You know, that there's even as troubles continue to come, because they won't stop, I've seen progress. I've seen the light. I've seen how I can work with people. You know, even an operative, I've done operative before. Once I was done, I was helping my classmate. So I think you're also looking at the fact of, how can you give more to students who don't know the route, you know, to our classmates who don't know? How can I share my techniques, and then how can I learn other people's techniques? I don't know how to do a perfect amalgam yet, but there's some people in my class who are phenomenal. And I ask them, like, do you have time to show me how you do? So I think it's also getting to a point where you can identify your weaknesses. and ask for help and not have pride. I think that's also a big lesson, as well. Seeing where you're weak and being able to be like, oh, hey, can you show me how you did this? Because I think at the end of the day, we're all here to learn. None of us were born dentists with phenomenal hand skills. We're here to learn how to do these things. So if someone's better at it, you ask. One thing a dentist said is that, always find out what is the person who's doing the best. Find out what they're doing. Mm-hmm. How are they studying? How are they doing the best prep? How are they doing the best composite? Because we're all trying to be the best, because we want, in the end, be able to serve our patients. So I think that's the next thing, not looking small picture at passing a class and doing just a prep and doing just a filling. How do we want to be professionals in the real world? How do we want to give care? And we want to give the best care, so that once that composite is done, we know that it's sealed, we know that it's good. Our patient shouldn't have to come back to us for the next 10, 20 years. Right. So I think when you look at it as that way as well, that helps throughout the process.
Okay. And so you've been doing this dental school thing for a while, and I would say that you're well-versed in the ups and the downs. And so just kind of wrapping things up here, just that golden piece of advice. I mean, granted, like I said earlier, you've been dropping gems throughout this entire interview.
Yeah.
But, like somebody who just started, I know a lot of students are just now starting dental school this week. What is something that, you would make sure to tell them?
One, enjoy the process. Mm-hmm. I think I've enjoyed, honestly, I think I've been happier this year than I did the first time around. Enjoy the process. Understand that failure doesn't mean it's nothing bad. It is that you just have to try another way to do something. So if you fail on an exam or on a quiz, find out where you went wrong early, identify it, acknowledge it, and ask for help early. I think, in my first time doing first year, I definitely thought, okay, maybe I can just do better again on the next exam. But then when the next exam came, I kind of got the same result without really maybe going to my professor to be like, okay, like I studied this way and, I'm still getting the same thing. So being able to be open about different techniques, like if you used to take notes in undergrad, that may not be what it is now. Like being able to be flexible, having a good work-life balance is another thing. Like I started back swimming, doing what you're passionate about so you can have a balance is also something that's important to do. And I think most importantly, have faith. Have faith in yourself and have faith in God. Because, even it's just something that I don't think we can get through school without, because it is hard, it is stressful. But if you don't believe that you can do it, if you don't believe, or you're not surrounding yourself with people who in your weakness can show support, that makes it harder. So then I think that would be my last thing. Finding people who will not only support your dreams, but hold you accountable even when you're down. Being able to stretch out a hand and be like, oh, I'm not seeing at school, what's going on? Mm-hmm. You want people like that, around you to hold you accountable, because there are times when we can just be tired. Right. And to have people who are going to be like, call me up and be like, oh, I haven't seen you, or how are you doing? Or, make sure you're in clinic at this time, make sure you get this done. Just having someone who's accountable and who genuinely cares. Don't get caught up in all the drama of being a young adult or being an adult. I think it is being focused on what you're here to do. Have fun doing what you're here to do. And there will be bumpy things. There will be bumpy experiences. Accept that in the beginning. And just always think about, how am I going to overcome? I think that's another thing. I fell here, how am I going to overcome? Because it's always going to happen, you know, and I think that just allows you to have strength as you reflect, you look back and see that it is possible. And sooner or later, we walk across the stage, cross the tassel, get that DMD or DDS, and you know, you're a doctor, whoever,
right,
and you're good to go.
Exactly. Well, thank you once again, Jason.
Oh, yeah, my pleasure.
Spoken the good word once again. Is there any way that people can reach out to you? You know, if they have any questions or they have any concern that they have.
Yeah. Definitely my email, and we'll have Tyler and Tyrell put it on the page. But definitely email. You can get to me, and I no longer have an Instagram, but hit me up on email, and then we can definitely talk in person or over the phone or email, however have you, and I'll be more than happy to have that conversation.
Great. Well, thank you, Jason. Everybody, as always, thank you all.
Thank you.
Please reach out to Jason if you all have any questions about his process or your process. Great resource, and everybody seeks guidance from Jason here at Tufts. So definitely a great resource. But until next time, see y'all later.